03 Passat W8 is on the lift today. And we are doing front tie rods. The front tie rod setup in the B5.5 Passat W8s is the same as all the other B5.5s, the other B5s, and the other C5s. The procedure that you're going to go through is going to be the same for this as it will be for your 1.8T Passat or your 2.7 S4. There are two bolts that hold these tie rods in on the spindle. You have a 13mm right here. This guy, it's an upper retainer that holds this up into the spindle, and then you have a pinch bolt that goes in for the back side, and this little cam butts up against this ridge on the back side of the spindle and holds it in place. I recommend that you take a couple days beforehand to shoot this whole assembly right here with some penetrant. I hit it once a day with this stuff. I prefer it to PB. It's usually a little bit cheaper, and I find that it has a longer dwell time before it evaporates. So I prefer it, but I hit it once a day, every day for about a week before, and I mean, the results speak for themselves. That thing came out with, now it's going to give me an issue because I'm filming, but that thing came out with, there it is, little to no problem right here. And it's a W8, so it has the aluminum knuckles, and those are known to galvanically corrode really bad. So do your due diligence in your prep work and give it some time to have the penetrant work its way in there. Now to get the other tie rod off, you have a 22mm right here. Actually, I think it's a 21. It might be a 21, but I know that this inner, the one that sits on the inner ball joint, or sorry, the inner tie rod, is a 19mm. It is a 22, 21 didn't fit, but this is my setup. I put the collar back into the sleeve right there on the knuckle a little bit to hold it in place. You put the 22 on the jam nut, you put the 19 on the block nut, and then you wedge the 19 into the spring, and you torque up on this guy, and it'll pop that jam nut loose. I'm gonna try to get this thread to break loose from that inner ball joint, so I'm gonna hit it with some heat. Well, that other side is dwelling in some penetrant. I went ahead and took this side out. This one came out no problem. I'm gonna go ahead and show you why I decided to do this on top of it, well, needing an alignment. So these are your standard B5, C5 outer tie rods. I don't know if they actually differ between the S cars, the RS cars, and the A-line cars, but all of my Passats have had this same design, and the problem is there is a bushing in there. It's a little bonded rubber bushing that links this ball thread to this outer ball joint assembly. And what happens is, as you're cranking down on this to turn it, to adjust and align your car, the bonding in here will let go and let the thread spin independent of this outer portion, meaning that you can't actually align your car. So what you do when that happens is you run the jam nut all the way up as tight as you can against this, and then when you heat up these guys, you can kind of break it loose and turn this as one unit. But it's a really annoying design that, yes, I see why they did it. It makes it, it dampens your steering a little more and makes it a little more tolerant to imbalanced wheels and a more comfortable ride, etc., etc. But 034 Motorsports makes these, they call them the heavy duty tie rods, and it's just one solid metal piece like every other car on the planet. There's your part number right there, and solving a problem that doesn't exist. What else are the Germans good for? Which is exactly what happened on this side, and why I think it's being a bit of a bastard. Great success. What I ended up doing is taking this, the lock nut, jam nut, whatever you want to call it, butting it up against this, what do you want to call it, the coupling right here, or the sleeve inside the ball joint, and dropping it on the ground. So I jammed it up in there so that it couldn't spin independent of the thread. And here we are. Little side note, be careful when you're hitting this with a flame. I moved the boot back so that I could get heat on a larger portion of this inner tie rod here, and I lit the boot on fire. So now I can't grab it with the hose clamp anymore. So I need to replace that. I'll deal with that later when I'm pulling the transmission out later this week to a clutch, because it's Sunday right now and the dealership isn't open, and most auto parts stores only carry the whole tie rod assembly. So I'll figure that out, but just be careful, take note of that, make sure you're not getting this guy too hot, because this little lip is no longer there. Now we're going back in, we got the passenger side in, threw some anti-seize up on all that thread, anti-seize into the knuckle right here on the interface between that collar and the knuckle. I'm gonna throw some anti-seize on this bolt, and probably no anti-seize on this bolt, considering that there isn't any shoulder on that bolt. It looks like this. There isn't any shoulder, so there's no reason to have anti-seize on there. It wasn't tight anyways. They only get torqued down to about 40 foot-pounds, so not too worried about that one. This guy though, these pinch bolts, I will absolutely cake an anti-seize. And here we got the driver's side all buttoned up.